All right, Nick. Sunday night edition of Chatterbox Reds. Not a winning one. Not a winning one, which, I don't. It's tough to, be okay with losing divisional games. and I know people get upset at us sometimes when we're like, oh, you can win 2 of 4 here. Everything's good. I'm just thrilled to death, man. I really am. Maybe it's the fact that you have a little kid's birthday party today that put me in a little bit of a better mood. The fact that I watched elite college baseball all day today. By the way, if you didn't watch that, I feel sorry for you. And really, truth be told, the Reds are right back in it. That's the facts. I assume you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I think if a week and a half ago you would have said the Reds are where they're at now, I think you would have taken it. I think if you would have said the Reds would take 2 of 3 at Wrigley, then turn around and take 3 of 4 against them in Cincinnati, you take it. I mean, this would have been nice. This would have been gravy, but this was clearly the game you weren't supposed to win. And then from the jump, it was just, right. It was honestly incredible that they only lost 4-2. It felt like a game they were going to lose about 14-3 5 minutes into the game.
Agree. Yeah, we were basically we dug our hole right from the rip. That's for sure. It certainly didn't feel as if at any moment, Montas is a guy. Not to get too in it quickly, it's like this is just what we're gonna deal with. I really do think that it's like not super feast or famine, but I don't know. I mean, he's just kind of is what it is. I'm sure we'll talk about it here in a bit. But before we do all of that, we obviously will stick to the script, as they say. Thank you for everybody jumping in here on a late night Sunday edition, as always. And I'll be honest, if you're not happy right now as a Reds fan, then I would just say that it's going to be a tough go at it if you're a Reds fan. That's just the nature of the beast. So, all right, let's jump into it. We got some things to talk about, not only today's game, but maybe, in my opinion, maybe some bigger, I don't say some bigger picture questions, but I think I have some bigger picture questions that I'd like to get your opinion on. And we'll do all that right after the Bosch Score Recap presented by Nick Kirby.
All right, well, the Reds going for a 4-game sweep against the Chicago Cubs. Frankie Montas, he really struggled. He needed 55 pitches to just get 4 outs, only threw 32 of his 55 pitches for strikes. Cubs took a 4-0 lead off of him early. Carson Spires came in. Carson Spires was scratched, was supposed to start at AAA Louisville on Saturday night. Came in and threw an absolutely just heroic effort. 5 2/3 innings, only allowed 4 hits, no runs, only walked 1 batter and struck out 7. Just an unbelievable performance today from Carson Spires. Reds did get on the board in the 3rd. Luke Maile hit a solo home run, his first home run since March 30th. But the Reds still trailed 4-1 going into the bottom of the 7th. That was really where the Reds had their one and only chance on the afternoon. Steer singled, then Jonathan India singled. This was to lead off the inning against Shoto Imanaga, who had been dominant all day. Santiago Espinal then singled on a line drive to left field. Espinal tried to take second, but Ian Happ made a just perfect throw, threw him out, and that unfortunately was the Reds' first out of the inning. The Reds would not score again in that inning as TJ Friel struck out and Jake Fraley struck out to end the inning. Cubs went to their bullpen, and Mark Leiter Jr. and Hector Neris were absolutely dominant. Reds finally lose a game. Cubs finally get a win, but don't let any of it distract you from the fact that the Cubs have lost 7 of their last 8 series, with their only series win being to the lowly Chicago White Sox.
And we do have a deep drive of the day. And boy, oh boy, has it been a long time coming for my man, Luke Maile. I don't know if you know, but my man hasn't hit a home run, I think I've seen, since March. Now, if you're keeping track at home, that's when they actually play college basketball still. I mean, college basketball, quite frankly, has been gone for a long time. But shout out to Luke Maile, second home run of the season, 103.3 off the bat, 383 feet. it did help the Cincinnati win probability jump 7%. So it kind of reminds you of that meme of Chris Paul on YouTube when he cut the lead to like 44. But if you've seen it, you get it. If you haven't, you didn't, you don't. But regardless, we all know it was 0%. And so shout out to Luke Maley on the deep drive. And it is sponsored by DSC, and they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. All right, let's get into this. Win streak obviously ends. I think I obviously kind of teased this at the top of the show. There's no doubt that anytime you get on a run like this, you are greedy. You feel like you want more. You certainly don't want to give in. And it felt like today, Nick, that not that I'm like if you've listened to the show enough, you know this. I'm not much of like a moral victory type of guy. But I do think today there is something to be said about the way in which it looked like it was going to go and the way in which they handled it and responded to it. We'll talk about the bullpen here in a little bit, but it makes you feel like the culture and the vibe, nothing's really going to, again, knock on wood here, change significantly. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but if you get drubbed, like you said, you're out there in a long game and you lose 16-1, it feels like it takes a little life out of you, perhaps. That wasn't the case today. They were in it. They had a chance all the way up until the end, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But nonetheless, I thought, if it was going to end, then at least have it end in the manner in which it did. They didn't lose today. It didn't feel like they lost today. It felt like the Cubs won in a way.
Yeah, I mean, look, they gave themselves a chance if the Cubs bullpen would have melted down to win the game. But the Cubs bullpen, Mark Ladder Jr. and Hector Neris were incredible. They pitched really well. They threw the ball well, and they won the game. But if those guys come in and can't throw strikes, we might be having a whole different post game show right now. So you're not always going to get the reward of fighting and scratching all game, but you do it enough times, you're going to get one or two of these wins, and we've saw some of these during the win streak. We've seen some of these games, and so you scratch and crawl all day. You can't blow through your bullpen. That's why Carson Spires' effort today was so great. But you still gave yourself a chance, and some of these you're going to stack up at the end of the year. And when this wild card race is probably decided by one or two games, those one or two that you get, whenever they do come, are going to be a big deal.
Completely agree. Speaking of winning, a guy said he was going to win 20 games this season, and I know it was a little tongue-in-cheek, but I did know when he said it that it's going to hold some weight. Obviously, that's Frankie Montas mentioned during spring training. I'm going to win 20 myself. We'll see how that happens. We'll see how he ends up getting there. I'm wondering myself how that might play out. But it's hard to get on a guy like Montas when he threw the ball so well the previous outing, right? And the other thing, too, is pitchers from time to time aren't going to throw the ball unbelievably well. And it felt like the Cubs were probably due to have a little bit of a better offensive performance than what they've had the last few nights in Great American Ballpark, considering the ballpark more than the Cubs. I'm not saying the Cubs have this great offense, but when you play inside a Great American Ballpark, you're due to run into some balls. I mean, at some point, you're going to hit some home runs, and ultimately, not only that, but I'd also say that they hit some balls hard the day before. So that's why last night was such a big win, and I felt so great about it because you kind of felt like today was coming for Montas and the crew. I'm not going to make too much about it in regards to saying, we should be worried about him, or heaven forbid we start talking about him losing a spot or anything like that. We're nowhere near there. But I don't know, your overall thoughts on his performance, if that, or maybe bigger picture stuff with Frankie Montas.
Yeah, it felt like three batters in. It just was like, this is not gonna end well for Frankie. I don't know. You could just feel it. You could really sense it. So Montas had an ERA of 4.60 when he goes into Coors Field, lowers it down to 4, and then shoots it right back up to 4.55 after today. So what a roller coaster of a week for him. I mean, I think he's fine. I mean, I don't think I think there's still more from Frankie Montas. I think we'll see him get on on a roll. But right now he's been very inconsistent. But that's fine. I mean, he's like what, the fourth best starter, fifth best starter on this team.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, again, you don't have five starters that are Green, Lodolo, and Abbott. You just don't. I mean, there's like what, two teams in baseball maybe that have something more than that. So Montes is fine. He'll get on a roll at some point. Today just clearly was not his day.
No, and it's funny because ultimately, if you stacked them up, as much as folks like are down on Graham Ashcraft from time to time, like you could somewhat compare the two of him and Montas, in my opinion, as being the kind of the odd men out of the folks you feel confident in when you walk into a baseball game. And maybe I'm a little too low on Montas considering he was the opening day starter, but I think I get a little bit of a chuckle, or I kind of like a wry smile when I think the fact of, like, when we were back in the beginning of the season talking about, who's an ace, maybe Montas is an ace and all those things. It's like, it's probably not. That was probably a little too much action for Frankie. But anyway, we'll jump into the actual game today. We'll talk about the bullpen here in a little bit. Unbelievable job. Obviously, Spires and I think that's a bigger picture story. Personally, we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But first, before we do that, we'll jump into the Espinal situation, the bottom of the seventh. I had mentioned to you right before we jumped on the show, there was the middle innings there, probably like the fifth, sixth, and seventh. I didn't get a chance to see. I was obviously with my daughter's birthday today. I went back and watched the play, Nick, that obviously people were kind of upset about, at least on socials, and then even obviously you had mentioned it there before we started the show. I don't know, Nick. I've watched enough. I want to know personally how he was out by that much on a ball that was hit like that. It kind of felt like it was going to be a bang-bang play. It was going to take a perfect play for them to throw him out, and it just wasn't the case. So I don't know if he slipped coming out of the box. I don't know if he slipped around in first base. I don't know what happened, because he's not super slow, and on top of that, he was out by like 4 feet, man. So I'll let you share your opinion before we get into the nuts and bolts of whether or not it was a bad play or not. But you obviously got a chance to see it. Your, I guess, initial reactions or post reaction.
But my initial reaction was, the very first thing I did is I went and I put up Santiago Espinal's StatCast page, because I was like, is he that slow? And I was like, oh, he's 50th percentile. He's an average runner. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I paused it right before Hap got the ball, and like where he was at, it's just like, it almost feels like everyone else on this team outside of, I don't know, maybe Tyler Stephenson easily turns that into a double. So I wish there was that. I know we've talked before about how I wish they had the all, what do you call the NFL camera? What's that
Sky
one called?
cam, the sky cam,
whatever. They have that in Major League Baseball, but not for us peons. We don't have access
right?
to it. I wish I could see.
Oh, you're talking about the all 22. Yeah, you're talking about the all 22. Yes, the high camera.
Yes, I wish we had that. I wish I could see what exactly happened with Espinal. I mean, if he was just straight running hard the whole time, then it was a god awful decision. But it feels like there had to be something that went wrong there.
Why don't we get that? This is what I'm talking about with Major League Baseball. Like, they can create, I don't know. This is going to go down a tangent. I'm not going to go down it. But I was just thinking to myself the other day, StatCast, unbelievable data. Even obviously like Ballpark Pals, you add in the fan graphs, you add in all this analytical stuff. That is truly awesome. And it's like, why is this just free? Like, with all due respect, I'm not trying to tell people to charge me money or charge you money or whatever else, but it's like, there should be a place that you basically have to have an MLB subscription to get this data, and then on top of that, be able to have extra film at your disposal that no one else theoretically has. It makes you feel special, like PFF and the all 22s. I mean, I know people would be like, Trey, shut up. Don't tell them to do that, but there should be something like that.
The cameras exist. Just you have to have like a some sort of credentialed access to be able to view them. But yeah, like people who pay for MLB TV, like why can't you access stuff like that? Like,
correct.
It just seems like it would be pretty easy to to make that available.
How
But nonetheless,
hard is it to put a camera on the top of a BP cage and just have like a fisheye view of people hitting BP every day, and you can get on there and watch BP if you want to watch BP. Like, this stuff is not hard to do. I don't know why we don't do it.
I would imagine they have those cameras up there because I imagine that someone in these front offices want to see some of this. And that might be why.
Oh, it's going to turn into that. It's like, oh, well, we don't want other people to see it. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It's like that reminds me of the 2-10 football team perennially in high school, worried about their games getting broadcasted on Chatterbox Sports because there's other teams that might get access to their film. It's like, hey, bud, I got news for you. That 125-pound right tackle you got, he ain't going to be able to block stuff regardless. So it doesn't matter if we film the game or not, pal. That's here nor there. Where was I going with all this? I think I was going to go with the fact that I am going to say that I don't love the play considering he was out, but I also don't know what happened. And I would just say, Espinal, if you're out by that much, then I think when you're rounding first base and you're running towards second, it's okay to just to call off the play halfway there and sprint back to first base and dive into first base. Like, if you're out by that much, you had to see you were in trouble. Maybe not, but I would have loved to see, like you mentioned, I would have loved to at least see what happened. Maybe he slipped out of the box. He knew in his heart of hearts that it should have been a double, so he was just going to try to force it at that point. That's possible. But I want to openly admit that's a double what seems like 98 out of 100 times based off of where the ball was hit, how soft it was, where the guy fielded it from. He did make a good throw, so kudos to him. But it's a big play in a game that unfortunately didn't go our way.
I don't want to crush Espinal too much because he was the only player to have 2 hits today.
Yeah.
The only player to drive in a run other than Maley's solo home run. And yeah, if he gets to second base, I mean, it could have been a whole different ball game. But he didn't. It is what it is. It also kind of felt like we were due for a play like that not to go our way after the way that some of the games during that 7-game win streak went.
Listen, I know there's a lot of people right now, and I can see it in the chat. They're saying you just can't possibly get thrown out down in that situation with nobody out. I mean, this is the hindsight 2020 game. I get that's fine. But he's not making his first out. He's not making his first out at third base or home. You could make the argument that if that you get in scoring position immediately, and that's a big deal because if the next person rolls over a ground ball to the second baseman, he gets to third base with 1 out. Someone hits a fly ball, he scores on a sacrifice fly. If he's at first base, that's either a double play on the ground ball that I had mentioned, and or it's a force out, and then the fly ball means that you got a runner on first with 2 outs. It's a big deal to get to second base with nobody out. Having said that, when you're out by that much, it does beg questions. It does feel like that might be a bad decision, yes. But let's not act like that's making the first out at third base down by 2 runs, okay? Or even making an out at home down by 2 runs with nobody out. Like there's big differences in being smart and not smart and being aggressive and dumb. I just say I can't openly be super frustrated by it all unless I see the full play. I really do genuinely feel that way. So leave it at that. Anything else to add on the old bottom of the 7th situation?
No, I think we got all the legs we can get out of the one play worth talking about on the
Fair
Sunday
enough.
baseball.
I think that there's a big thing to talk about, and that's Carson Spires. We'll talk about him in just a moment. But before we do that, we're going to do the game time read. You do that, and I got a special 988 message personally right after that. So, just saying.
I saved Carson Spires for the second half. Sometimes I feel like the second half we don't put enough stock in. I feel like sometimes we just kind of, I was like, you know what, let's save him to the back half just to kind of, keep a little more flow with the show, a little more balance. All right. The Game Time app, Reds and Guardians, 2 games, Tuesday and Wednesday. Get down to the ballpark. Use the Game Time app because they are an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball. That makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature, and it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Cincy for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Cincy, CINCY, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And listen, we talk about the 988 text call if you need it. Life is better with you in it. I was really worried today about Reed Mouse, and really, if there was any semblance of really what I would call, just a nice gesture from the baseball gods, it was the fact that the Cubs did win today, and by all means, I was hoping they were going to bury him. I was hoping the baseball gods were going to come down and get rid of him completely and absolutely demoralize Reed Mouse. It didn't happen, but unfortunately for him and his beloved alumni, the Baden Rams, they just fell apart. And I just want to say, if you're ever feeling as blue as the Baden Rams program is right now, and by all means, I don't wish this upon anybody, how badly it must hurt to lose a state championship in the final inning in which the way they did. But if you're ever feeling down, you're not out. And if you're ever feeling out, then you have resources. You need to use your resources to the best of your ability. Who do you call? Where do you go? Mantherapy.org. You can find manly ways to deal with serious problems. And if you need it, use it. All right, Carson Spires. Boy, oh boy. I think he's throwing the ball so well, there's reasonable discussion around the idea of utilizing him more. And by more, I mean that maybe he's earned an opportunity to at least start a baseball game. Am I crazy for thinking that at this point?
No, I mean, this guy pitched really well at AAA. It's not like this is just something. Yeah, he came up, had some cute little, games where, the score was lopsided. I mean, he had 2.51 ERA in his 8 starts at AAA, 3.23 FIP. So it's not something that was, lucky there as well. He was striking out almost 10 batters per 9 innings, not walking guys, not giving up home runs. Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely, this is where it gets kind of hard, because he absolutely 100% deserves a spot on the roster. But you also have to kind of weigh your options of, I know there's 2 off days this week, but he's going to be probably unavailable until Thursday. It's hard to see them pitching him Tuesday or Wednesday. So is it really better off not bringing up another fresh arm just in case you need it? That's where it kind of becomes tough, and it's just unfortunate for Spires that he's the guy that's got, the options and you can kind of do that with. But man, he's excelled at his role. I got to be honest, if let's just play a hypothetical here. Let's play a hypothetical. I got a good one. All right. So tomorrow is game 162. All right. We've already used Green. We've used Lodolo. We've used Abbott. They're unavailable. Reds have to win to keep their season alive. You have 3 choices to start. Rank them. You have Frankie Montas, Graham Ashcraft, and Carson Spires.
I would say you know what I would honestly do? If we were in a spot where we absolutely had to have this, it feels like I would throw a bullpen game. And I know people might not like that answer, but that's 100%.
That wasn't an option.
That's 100% what we would do. That's 100% what we would do. However, here we go. Listen.
Our bullpen's gassed. Our bullpen's gassed. That's the other hypothetical.
All right, fine. That's what I was going to say. Or we could just say the game basically gets rained out in the 3rd inning or 4th inning of that day, and they got to throw the next day. Whatever. We'll do it that way. I personally would go right now. I know Spires is the obvious choice. I feel like maybe I'm not there yet totally, but I'd like to see more is where I'm at. I would go Ashcraft, Montas, and then I would go Spires. But I think Spires is in a situation where I want to see, like, it's I don't know. He feels like a new toy, and I got to figure out if it's a gimmicky toy or if it's like a legacy toy. One that the kids will play for with generations to come, or if it's a fidget spinner. Shout out fidget spinners.
I would go Montas. I know he's had some absolute blow-up starts, but he's also had some really good starts as well in recent memory. I'd go Spires 2, and I'd have Ashcraft 3. Maybe I'm too low on Ashcraft. I've kind of been the low guy on him all along. I don't think he was that terrible this year. I said before that him getting optioned is more about what the other guys are doing than really him. But I think I'd have Spires ahead of Ashcraft on the pecking order at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, if you reframe the question and said the playoffs started tomorrow, then I think Spires is number one.
I think I'd still have Montas ahead of him. I think
really?
I still would.
Yeah.
He did throw one hitter in.
I know he did, but he just feels like I don't know. I wouldn't love it. I wouldn't sleep well with any of them, if we're being honest.
What if we could see Oakland A's?
I don't know, man. The White Sox. How about that?
White Sox.
Yeah. I've been making fun of I'm making fun of the Oakland A's for a while, and I hadn't been paying attention. Then I look over and I'm like, damn, the Oakland A's, they got about the same record as the Reds did. Like a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh man, this is how bad it's gotten. Not good. But yeah, no, I guess my final thing with Spires is like, I feel like he's earned an opportunity to get a start. I really do. And if it means that it doesn't go well, how many more times does he get a chance to start in the big leagues? I don't know, but I do know that he looks the part. It doesn't look fluky, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like it feels like this guy might just be the diamond in the rough. Put it this way, like Nick, me and you've talked about this off the air, behind the scenes before. It's like you have all these prospects, and like inevitably we know some of these guys that we think are going to be like huge prospects, they'll flake out, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like some random guy that comes on, like a Sal Stewart. Like Sal Stewart obviously wasn't, and I know what you're like shaking your head a little bit, but my point is this. Listen to me. My point is this. Like, if I said, hey, you got to pick, is it Cam Collier, Jorge, Chase Petty, like any of these guys, which of the guy, where is he at? And I would say that most people would put Sal Stewart at the bottom of that list. My point in saying all that is that it can be that Sal Stewart could be the superstar of all of those. It doesn't necessarily add up to be Ellie De La Cruz, looks like the superstar, and then becomes the superstar. That doesn't always happen. It rarely happens in my case.
Sal Stewart was a second-round pick.
Okay, but school. Yes, but Nick Senzel was a first-round pick.
Yeah. No, I your larger point, I get. I don't know if I would use Sal Stewart.
You want me to use Jacob Hurtubise? Everybody uses him.
Yeah, okay. I mean, maybe there's a middle ground between Sal Stewart and Jacob
You find me a middle ground then, and I'll start using him.
Rhys Hines is too high.
There's not many guys that make the big leagues that are past round 5.
Jay Allen. Now, Jay Allen was a comp pick. He's pretty high too.
Hey, everybody's high with you.
Well, no, I'm trying to find who's on the Reds roster right now that was.
Well, I mean, like next this year we're about to have Condon or Bazana. So then next thing you know, they're high. I mean, I think everybody's high. It's like Snoop Dogg's basement with you.
Blake Dunn would be the middle ground.
All right, fine.
Blake Dunn. All right, but
DJ Friedel turns into the superstar.
Yeah. But anyways, we'll get into Reds MILB in a minute, and you're gonna see some pitching that's, gonna make you really be thankful for what Carson Spires has done, and how he's developed this year. This guy was a non-drafted. Now there was only 5 rounds in 2020. I think a guy ready probably would have gone in like the first 10 rounds, if there would have been a full draft. But this guy's developed into a really solid pitcher. He's one of the guys that is kind of fun for the prospect people, because I was looking up a little bit today. So Baseball America actually had him ranked as like a top 15 Reds prospect, and MLB Pipeline did not have him in their top 30. So looks like Baseball America was on the winning side of that one. But clearly he should have been a top 15 prospect. Even if he completely flames out. I mean, if you make it to the big leagues and have some success, you're probably, should have been ranked pretty high. But yeah, he's definitely an option for the Reds, either to start or relieve. If I know you won't like this, but if for some reason they need to put Nick Martinez back into the rotation, he does feel like a guy that would slide seamlessly into the Nick Martinez role. Now, I'm with you. I think maybe that should be flipped. Maybe Carson Spire should be the one starting, but in the Reds' minds, they may still want to give Nick Martinez a chance. There also might be some of the, and I know you're not going to like this, I'm just trying to explain the process here. There also might be some of the, they feel like they owe it to give Nick Martinez a chance because based on kind of how they sold him coming to Cincinnati and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, whatever role he's in, it seems like he's going to at least be a solid option, and that's cool to have guys like that.
That's fair. No, I'd go to Martinez. I asked him if any of the checks that he's getting bounced, and as soon as he says no, like I'll tell you, we'll tell you what to do. How about that?
Put a big poster with ERA as a starter, ERA as a reliever on his locker.
Right. I don't think there's much of a debate. If he was going to arbitration to argue with a judge on whether or not he should be a starter or reliever, the case would get dismissed. They wouldn't even honor it. All right, let's talk about Hunter Greene. I kind of missed this news. I don't know when this news came out. I don't know if I'm just late on the trigger. I haven't been on my phone a lot today. Greene's being pushed back. I've seen some people kind of debating on what they were going to do. It seems like maybe a bullpen day is in store. But I guess your thoughts on Greene and then maybe the situation at hand?
Yeah, they're pushing Greene back to Friday. It makes sense. I mean, he's had a lot of outings where he went well over 100-plus pitches. I know David Bell talked about that. Also, conveniently, they're pushing him back to face the Milwaukee Brewers on the road. Greene's been better away from home, although he hasn't pitched well against the Brewers, especially in that ballpark. Again, I don't think this is a big deal. I think that, a fresh bullpen game for the Reds right now, when you're going to have a fresh Nick Martinez, a 4-inning Nick Martinez it's better than Graham Ashcraft. I don't want to be a hater, but it is right now. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a fine move. This is a good week to try to do this. Good week to, buy Hunter Greene a few extra days. I don't know. I would love to know the honest answer of how much of it was wanting Hunter Greene to pitch against the Brewers versus the rest. If there was actually any validity to just wanting him to face the Brewers.
I want to say, and I think that this is the cop-out answer, yes, but I think it also could be the truth answer. I think that they weighed both of those things, and they probably were like, you know what, it just makes too much sense, the fact that they play the Brewers, and on top of that, probably needs a little bit of rest as well. Let's just go ahead and do it, and they did it. And that happened another time this season where they kind of allowed who was it? I think it was Lodolo, and they had Lodolo and Abbott go back-to-back days against was it the Cardinals? Who was it? I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, it was a lineup that obviously had really bad splits against left-handed pitching. Yeah. And I want to say it was the Cardinals, but I could be wrong about that.
It was the Cardinals.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I guess behind the scenes they might have been like, hey, let's just do this because we've looked at the analytics and it feels like it's smarter to do it this way, and that's fine. That makes sense. All right. Anything else on I guess that situation other than the fact that they're probably going to go bullpen day?
No. I don't have an issue with it. It'll be interesting, and it also could be something with the Guardians. There might be something that they didn't like the way that they felt Greene matched up with them. I don't know. The Guardians are kind of have a very weird lineup. They're not like your traditional lineup. They hit for a lot of contact. They could just be a really nagging team for a guy like Hunter Greene. So I don't know. It could be something with that too.
Yeah. Well, if he's not getting a lot of swing and misses, then sometimes it obviously dooms or spells of doom, if you want to call it that, with Hunter Greene. So we'll find. I don't know. I really don't want to speculate in the fact and think that they were making the decision solely on the fact that they didn't like the matchup. It very much could simply just be they don't want to throw him too many innings, so they want to give him kind of I don't want to say skip a start per se, but they want to kind of skip a start to allow him to keep a load management type situation going. All right, we have Reds in my LB. Right before we get to that, though, Michael Rolfe comes in here with just a ridiculous super chat, as he always does at this point. I don't know why it shocks me, but I look over and I'm like, whoa. Michael Roth with a 50 bomb on a Sunday night. Some say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting change. Well, I will not stop super chatting, and I am going to do it over and over. Will never change. My 5-year-old talked me into tie-dyeing more shirts tonight. I'm insane. You're not insane, Michael. I think you're a great, great, great man. I think you're a smart man. I think that you're a handsome man. I've seen you on the show. I think you're a wise man. And I think that you are very, very much appreciated for supporting us in our dumb show. That's what I think. So you do whatever it is that you want to do tonight, Michael. If you want to tie-dye shirts till 3 in the morning, do it. If you don't, your daughter might be a little upset, but if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Simple as that. All right. I like Bacon said he's a rich man. Hey, I mean, listen, I'm not counting other men's. How about other people? That's probably the right word to use. I'm not going to count other people's money. You know what I'm saying? That might be the last $50 of Michael Roth has in his entire bank account. He just loves this show so daggone much he wanted to give all 50 of it to us. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong, but you never know. I'd like to think it's his last $50. That's how much he loves this show. Maybe it is. All right. Reds MILB presented by Nick Kirby. Nick, I think I know what's happening here before you show this graphic. I think I know what's coming, and it's not a pretty thing. So go ahead, Nick.
It was a tough pitching day for the old Louisville Bats today. Oh, I didn't even put their score in here. That's how bad it was. Let's add it. They got 3. They got a cheap Rhys Hines home run. I remember I was talking about Rhys Hines a couple days ago, and I was like, yeah, you know, if you watch some of the games, well, his home run today came in the 9th inning. They were trailing 14-2. Now he did have 3 hard hit balls in the day. That home run was 409 feet, exit velocity of 105. But that was probably the highlight of the day. Connor Phillips, 3 1/3, 11 hits, 9 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 3 home runs. That was a career high 11 hits. His previous high was 8 back in 2021. Phillips, I guess, just said, I'm going to let it fly after really struggling with walks. He threw a first pitch strike to 5 of the first 6 batters that he faced. And the result was he gave up 11 hard hit balls, according to StatCast. His fastball was fine, maxed out 98.5. He only got whiffed, though, on 6 of 45 swings. So we'll talk about Connor Phillips after I run through the Reds on my LB. And what do you do with the guy that's struggling as much as he is? All right, other side, Lyon Richardson, he gave up 1 run. I guess that's a good performance on this day. Alex Young, he gave up 2 hits and a run. Zach Maxwell, a guy that really had a ton of momentum when he got to Louisville, looked great his first couple outings. He has not looked good his last couple outings. He only threw 13 of 26 pitches for strikes himself. He gave up 2 hard hit balls, but his fastball was great. It was a 100.9. Nick Martini, he doubled, had a nice exit velocity of 104. All right, Chattanooga. Poor Chattanooga. They blew a 3-0 lead after Rhett Lauder left the game. They've lost 4 straight. They are now 15-42 on the season, well on their way to their worst win percentage in team history. But Rhett Lauder, interesting outing for him, a good one, but an interesting one. I was watching this a little bit. I was dozing off, to be completely honest. But Lauder, 5 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, only 1 strikeout. He threw 44 of his 63 pitches for strikes. He did not allow an extra base hit. Not a whole lot on the offensive side other than Austin Hendrick, 1 for 4 with an RBI. Down to Dayton. They lost 7-1 to Lansing. Dragons fall to 28-29 on the season. The highlight of this one, though, Cam Collier. He hit a home run, his first since May 26th. Does have 10, though, on the year. South Stewart 0 for 4. Hector Rodriguez 1 for 4. Jay Allen 0 for 3. Ethan O'Donnell, he was the Reds' 6th-round pick last season, 23rd ranked prospect. He was 2 for 4. He's had a nice couple games, 6 for his last 16. And then down to low A, Daytona Tortugas. They are hot. They won 12-3 over St. Lucie. They've won 4 in a row. They're now 27-30 on the year. Sammy Stefuro walked twice. Ricardo Cabrera, he had 2 hits, hit his 7th home run of the year, drove in 3 runs, stole his 8th bag of the year. Cabrera's the Reds' number 9 ranked prospect. He's 4th in the Florida State League in home runs, 3rd in doubles, 7th in average, and 5th in OPS. Eastmith Pineda doubled. Connor Burns 2 for 3, a double, triple, and 2 walks. That's your Reds MILB. So what do you do with Connor Phillips?
Well, you certainly don't tweet about him. That's what you don't do. I'd say what you should do is give him a little bit more time. I'm not going to send him to Double-A quite yet. Would I be concerned? Yeah. I don't know, but the velo's there. If the velo's there, then I mean, what would you be more concerned with? Results or velo? Because if his velo was like down significantly, let's say he was in like the 95, 94s, but he was getting outs, he still was getting outs, I feel like we would still be concerned, right? Like we would be like, this isn't good. This is a terrible sign. But then we've got the reverse of that, to where obviously today his velo was no issue, but he's getting hit around the yard like a piñata. I don't know, man. The good news is I don't feel like the Reds have to rely on him anytime soon. I could be wrong on that, but this is the kind of crazy case, Nick, of just it's hard to be a big leaguer. It just is. It is incredibly difficult to stick, and you're going to have guy after guy after guy behind you too. You have a guy like Spires. If he ends up sticking a little bit, you add in Rhett Lauder. Yeah. Chase Petty's. He's going to be trying to make a push for the big leagues here probably in the next year or two. You get left in the dust, man. So at this point, I don't know. I think you just ride it out and see what happens. Personally, maybe I'm being a little overly, I don't want to say too harsh, but if you can't figure it out in AAA, then I guess we could send him back to AA. But when you throw that hard, man, maybe I'm wrong, but if you don't find a pitch like Fernando Cruz, it's hard for me to believe that you're going to get significantly better between AA and AAA. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Seems to me, I feel like they got to find a way to get him to Arizona. Like, we can't find any video of Sheng-Yin Lin, so send him to the Arizona Complex League. And there's been other teams do this. This isn't something that's new. Usually you put a guy on the IL and he goes out to Arizona to rehab. But it feels like, some starts where there's, no cameras, there's there's not as many eyeballs. Seems like maybe something like that would be in his best interest to see if that could get him back on track. But yeah, I mean, his ERA is at 9 through 12 starts at AAA. This is a guy that last year, he had a 3.34 ERA at AA. Felt like he was kind of just scratching the surface because he had incredible swing and miss ability. But the walks have piled up, and now he's almost like he's caught in between. It's clearly, I didn't watch the game. I just clicked on each at bat, and he was like you could clearly tell he was just trying to throw it right down the middle. Like someone said, just throw it right down the middle and see what happens. And, well, it didn't go well.
You remember, I don't remember the organization. I think it was the Twins organization, where they had a bunch of pitching prospects come out and just be absolutely upset about how the whole pitching philosophy of that organization was throw the ball right down the middle. Do you remember that story? I believe it was the Twins, right?
I don't remember who it was.
Regardless, if it wasn't the Twins, Mariners, who cares? Point is that the philosophy, and it's not a terrible one if you don't have great command, but if you have great command, then it makes this sound stupid. The philosophy was aim right down the middle. There's a good chance you miss one way or the other by a little bit, and you wind up on the edges and you wind up on the corners. But your focus should be trying to throw the ball literally right down the middle. And that was literally a whole entire, I guess, for lack of a better term, organization's philosophy. I don't know if that's still their philosophy or not, but maybe that's what happened, Nick. Maybe they were like, you know what? Let's throw the damn thing right down the middle and see what happens. And boy, did he find out today. That reminds me of an old story that my summer coach who played in the big leagues did one time. He said he was in the minor leagues one time, Nick, and a guy was getting lit up like a Christmas tree. He said he went out to the mound, and a guy took a mound visit, and the pitcher was kind of like a hothead. And so he's all mad about him getting hit hard. And pitcher was like, "Why the hell are you coming out here?" Yelling at the pitching coach coming out there. And he said, "Well, I had to give that poor bastard back there that had to let all the fireworks off a break." And then he turned back around and walked right back to the dugout. Still to me, that's one of the better baseball stories I've ever heard. I couldn't imagine being at the mound hearing a pitching coach come back with that quick of a quip and then just turn around and leaving. That's all-timer, man. That's an all-timer. So maybe it just that's what they needed to do out there today for Connor. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, look, it's it's one stretch of a guy's career. There's been other pitchers that have gone through similar things, but yeah, if there's one thing that's been the most disappointing this year, it's really been it's wild. The starting pitching at the major league has been great, but
Right.
there felt like there was such a plethora of depth with Phillips, with Lyon Richardson hasn't pitched particularly well. Rhett Latter, I don't want to say he's been like disappointing, but I expected him to dominate a little bit more, if I'm being honest. Chase Petty, he's had some good starts. He's also had some. He's been inconsistent too. So it has kind of been a little bit of a disappointing season so far. It's still early. Remember, the minor league started a couple weeks even later, so it's even still a little bit earlier for them. But it has been a little bit disappointing. The starting pitching in the minor leagues minus Carson Spires.
Pitching prospects is a wild card, man. It feels like it's, and it doesn't always mean that every single prospect that's a pitching prospect's a complete crapshoot, but it certainly feels like it's a bigger crapshoot than position players at this point by a pretty considerable margin. I don't know what that margin is, but it's a good amount. Like, that's why when you get to these MLB drafts, like as much as Chase Burns, he's a name that's going to come up here relatively soon in the MLB draft. Probably going to be 100% a top 10 pick. How high he gets, I don't know. Maybe top 5, but he throws so hard that you have to worry about when that ultimately gives out. Like I hate to be that guy, but it just feels like Tommy John and guys flaking out is more. It's becoming more of the norm than we'd like to admit. So we'll see. We'll find out. And the Reds aren't going to take a picture, so it doesn't matter. But that's here nor there. All right. For the first time this week, which will happen 2 times this week, Nick, there will be an off day. But we still can do who, what, when, where, and why.
Yeah, as mentioned, Reds will be going with a bullpen game. To no surprise, David Bell did say Nick Martinez will be in the mix for that. Reds will be going up against Tristan McKenzie on Tuesday. He's kind of been the weak link of the Guardians, who are 20 games above 500 of their rotation. So this will be a fun little test. Just 2 games against the Guardians, a team that's having an incredible year. Tuesday will be at 7:10. Programming note, I will be doing a interview with someone who covers the Guardians tomorrow afternoon. I am going to try to post that on YouTube for members only tomorrow afternoon. So there'll be something to watch on Monday night. And then at least part of that interview will be in the podcast feed on Tuesday morning. So there'll be something in the podcast feed. And I'll talk a lot more in depth about the Guardian series in that.
Perfect. And then turns out, not Michael Rolfe's last $50. He had $10 left to spare. He says, I think we are going to win both or lose both against Cleveland. I'd be okay with a split like last year. Thanks again, Nick, for letting me join on Friday. Had a blast. We'll work for CBOX for free anytime. You better be careful, Michael. Better be careful. We'll get you some work around here. Yeah, ask Craig about that. All right, folks. Unfortunately, no dunk tonight and no pillow. Those are the rules. I don't make them. Those are the rules. We will be back better than ever on Tuesday, of course. You just heard Nick. Download the podcast. Give it a rating. Give it a review. I know I say that time and time again, but I do go back, kind of check where we're at from time to time on the reviews And they help us, man. They really do help us, and it's much appreciated. I know you guys think that this is goofy, but there's some times where you're feeling down about the fact that you got, not that you have to do this every night, but again, to be clear, sometimes it's a grind. Nick, I know he's grinding, and he's probably going to enjoy maybe an off day tomorrow. Point is, though, is there's times where you're like, man, it's just nice. It's nice to see people appreciate it, right? Like in anything in life, for that matter. It's nice to see a nice review pop in sometimes on the old email that you get, and it's like, hey, people appreciate it. So we appreciate that you appreciate it. There's just a bunch of appreciation going on. So that's good. But Nick, I don't know if you have anything to add, but we'll be back Tuesday.
Tuesday about 9:40. Getting a couple of these 7:10 starts, baby.
Ooh, nothing better than the 7:10 starts. Michael Roth, happy birthday to your daughter, Trace. Thank you. $5. And yeah, just a baseball game sometimes. Today would have been nice. Let's be honest. If we would have swept a 4-game series against the Cubs, that's an all-timer. Turns out that we took 3 of 4. What a shame. What a shame. What a shame. We're one step closer to holding the tiebreaker over the Cubs too. Can't wait for that. We're getting close. Gonna come. Just gotta wait a little bit longer. Good things happen to those who wait, is what I think they say. That's it. I don't have anything else to tell you other than the fact that we love you. We appreciate you. Go Reds. We'll be back on Tuesday. In the meantime, tell somebody about our dumb show, and maybe they'll join us on Tuesday night. We can have a grand old time winning the Ohio Cup. As we all know, the most prestigious cup in all of the world. That's including the World Cup, if you're keeping track at home. Take care. Go Reds. See you on Tuesday, everybody.